Tashmat Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Viṣṇu-pada Tashmat Shila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Viṣṇu-pada Tashmat Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Viṣṇu-pada Tashmat Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pavishtam Viṣṇu-pada Tashmat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Maha-Bhagavat Shila Gokshwadas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pavishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shada Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shiva Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Padati Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Pandava Nirjala Akadashi Titi ki jai. Shri Baldev Vijibhushan Prabhu ki jai. Tati Shubhatirabal Titi ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shinitaya Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Viṣṇu-padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti-vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Viṣṇu-padaya Krishna-prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti-vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa-sindubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apetakrityam Tvaipayano Virahaka Tara Ajuhavo Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedustam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhakta Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptashtakama Ditarangamadhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams, Rup Manjari. Didi, are you in the car right now? You must be still driving back from the Badger Festival, right? Oh no, it's 7. No, it's been a few hours. You're probably back home now. Dandavat pranams, Madhavi Didi. And Prajumna Prabhu, Dandavat pranams. Okay, so let's, I'm going to read just back from here. Narad says, you are like the deer, desiring heavenly planets by fruit of activity. Give up your abominable household life, filled with stories of man and woman, and take shelter of the Lord through the mercy of liberated souls. Further questions by King Pracetās. I have heard and considered what you have spoken. It seems my teachers do not know these facts, so I accept you as my guru. You have destroyed my doubts created by these teachers. Now I can see how even great sages with controlled senses can be bewildered. But I have one more doubt concerning the path of karma. Please destroy that too. The results of whatever a living entity does in this life are enjoyed in the next. Practically, it is seen that the body that performs the work in the last birth is already lost. So how is it possible to enjoy or suffer the reactions of that work in a different body? Narad explains the mind's role in the soul's transmigration. The gross body is forced to act through the subtle body, of which the mind is predominant. After the gross body is lost, the subtle body is still there to enjoy or suffer. This is explained with the help of the example of a dream. There's the logic of a dream to understand reincarnation. So while dreaming, one gives up the gross body, and through the subtle body one acts in another body, either as a god or a dog. And in reincarnation, at death, one gives up his gross body, and with the subtle body, one enters another gross body and experiences the results of the actions of one's past life. Srila Sridhar Goswami Maharaj our mind. Because the soul doesn't die, the soul goes into one other body, and it's just the mind that goes into a different body, all these other conceptions of who I am and what's mine and stuff. So it's just a change in state of mind. Reasons for one's next life. Okay, so these are the reasons for one's next life. Identifying with his gross body, a jiva performs action, and then he receives the results of that action in a subtle body. And then, by that action, performed with a certain identity, he takes birth in another gross body. Understanding one's previous life. One's actions through the 10 senses reveal one's chitta, consciousness or mental condition, which reveal one's position in the previous life. Okay, and so now Pracetās might ask, well, how can we perceive the subtle body which is not destroyed when the gross body is destroyed? And now Narad Rishi explains, one gets dreams in which unseen, unheard events are experienced. It is not possible for anything to appear in the mind which has not been previously experienced in different bodies. The mental composition indicates one's attainment of bodies in accordance with material nature. Then Pracetās may ask, how is it that one sometimes sees impossible things in dreams, such as an ocean on top of a mountaintop, stars during the day, or one's own body without a head? Narad Rishi explains, the impossible things in dreams, that are never experienced or heard of in this life have actually been experienced in different times, places, and conditions. Under illusion, one combines these separate factors. For example, a golden mountain seen in a dream is due to our having experienced gold and mountains separately, but then we put them together. The mind is a storehouse of thoughts, experiences, and desires, which appear in a particular sequence and in different combinations. Therefore, these images sometimes appear as things never seen or never heard before. A devotee absorbed in Krishna consciousness can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Lord does, just like seeing Rahu in the presence of the full moon. Note, by the grace of Lord Krishna, Mother Yashoda saw all the universes within Krishna's mouth. Similarly, by the Lord's grace, a Krishna-conscious person can see all his dormant desires at one time, and these desires will no longer fructify into gross bodies. One's false identification with the gross body exists as long as a subtle body, mind, intelligence, senses, sense objects, material reactions, exists. Link. The gross bodies are created and destroyed thousands of times while the subtle body remains. Similarly, while the gross body remains, there is destruction of the subtle body during sleep. Why can't we say this? Wait, it's a question. Similarly, while the gross body remains, there is the destruction of the subtle. Oh. Okay, I get it. The subtle body is not destroyed when the senses are inactive. When does one lose self-awareness? During deep sleep, supti, fainting, upatapeshu, grief, during grief, mrityu, death, and prajvarayo, high temperature. Big one. So note, in all the above states, the senses are inactive to different degrees, and thus one does not identify the self with the body. However, the subtle body doesn't cease to exist. All the 10 senses in the mind are active in youth, but in the womb of the mother or in childhood, they remain covered, just as the full moon is not visible on a dark moon night. Note, unless the senses of the gross body are developed, they will not act on the subtle body. Similarly, because of the absence of desires in the subtle body, there may be no development in the gross body. One enjoys objects in a dream One enjoys objects in a dream, though the objects are not present. Similarly, samsara does not cease for a person who is attached to sense objects, but not in contact with them. Like during childhood, undeveloped senses and deep sleep, inactive senses. What is the subtle body? The form which consists of the 5 prans and the 3 gunas, which is furnished within the 16 transformations, 10 senses, 5 sense objects, in the mind, and which is endowed with consciousness, is called the subtle body. By the subtle body, the jiva accepts gross bodies and gives them up, and experiences joy, lamentation, fear, grief, and happiness. Link. An analogy to explain the transmigration of the soul. This is what's. A caterpillar does not give up one leaf before transferring itself to the next. Similarly, the jiva does not give up his previous identity, even while dying, or until he has accepted another body by firmly holding onto his karmas. Thus the mind, the reservoir of all desires, is the cause of repeated birth. Bhutanam pavabhavanam. How is the mind the cause of samsara? The mind desires for sense enjoyment, and material activities under ignorance make the mind the desire for sense enjoyment. They both feed each other. Thinking of sense gratification, one performs material activities under ignorance and is entrapped in the bondage of karma. Therefore, worship the Lord to counteract ignorance. He is the creator, maintainer, destroyer, and controller of the universe. Renunciation of King Prachina Barhishat. Thus Narad Muni enlightened Prachina-Barhishat and returned to Siddhaloka. Prachina-Barhi retired. He left orders with his ministers that his sons, the Pracetās, protect the citizens. Then he left home for Kapila Ashram. Note: when Prachina-Barhi was induced by Narad to leave home and take to devotional service, the Pracetās had not yet returned from their austerities. Being free of material association and constantly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, King Prachina-Barhi attained a spiritual position qualitatively equal to that of the Lord. Falashruti, the results of hearing this story. And the results are that it liberates one from the subtle body, it sanctifies the material world, purifies the jiva's heart, liberates him from all bondage, elevates him to the spiritual world, relieves him from the bodily conception, and clears his doubts about the next life. All right, so now we're beginning the activities of the Pracetās. Let's see. Dandavat pranams Bhavatarani Mataji and Ri Hari Prabhu. Oh, you're still in the car, Manjari. Dandavat pranams Rukmini Didi. Dandavat pranams Gargaraji. Haribol. The activities of the Pracetās. Vidura uvacha yetvaya bhita brahman sutta Prachina-Barhisha te Rudra-gitena harim siddhim apu pratoshyakam. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O Brahman, you formerly spoke about the sons of Prachina-Barhi and informed me that they satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting a song composed by Lord Shiva. What did they achieve in this way? Purport. In the beginning, Maitreya Rishi narrated the activities of the sons of Prachina-Barhi. These sons went beside a great lake, which was like an ocean, and fortunately, finding Lord Shiva, they learned how to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting the songs composed by Lord Shiva. Now their father's attachment for fruitive activities was disapproved by Narad, who therefore kindly instructed Prachina-Barhi by telling him the allegorical story of Puranjan. Now Vidura again wanted to hear about Prachina-Barhi's sons, and he was especially inquisitive to know what they achieved by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here the words siddhim apu, or achieved perfection, are very important. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.3, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashte dyatati siddhaye. Out of many, many millions of people, one may be interested in learning how to attain success in spiritual matters. The supreme success is mentioned also in Bhagavad Gita 8.15. Mam upetya punarjanma dukalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana sangsiddhing paramangata. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. And what is that highest perfection? That is also explained in that verse. The highest perfection is to return home, back to Godhead, so that one will not have to return to this material world and transmigrate from one body to another in the dream of material existence. By the grace of Lord Shiva, the Pracetās actually attained perfection and returned home, back to Godhead, after enjoying material facilities to the highest extent. Maitreya will now narrate that to Vidura. Kim barhaspateha paratravata kaivalyanata priyaparshvavartina asadadevam girisham yadrichaya prapu param nunam ata pracetasa. My dear Barhaspatya, Oh, Bahaspati, I never heard that one. Oh, disciple of Brihaspati. Okay. My dear disciple of Brihaspati, what did the sons of King Barhishat, known as the Pracetās, obtain after meeting Lord Shiva, who is very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of liberation? Certainly, they were transferred to the spiritual world. But apart from that, what did they obtain within this material world, either in this life or in other lives? What did they attain? Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading. What did they obtain within this material world, either in this life or in other lives? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All types of material happiness are obtained in this life or in the next life, on this planet or on another. The living entities wanders within this material universe in so many species of life and so many planetary systems. The distress and happiness obtained during the span of life are called iha, and the distress and happiness obtained in the next life are called paratra. Actually, Lord Mahadev, Shiva, is one of the great demigods within this material world. Generally, his blessings bestowed upon ordinary people mean material happiness. The predominating deity of this material world, Durga, is under the control of Mahadev, Girish. Thus, Lord Mahadev can offer anyone any kind of material happiness. Generally, people prefer to become devotees of Lord Girish to obtain material happiness, but the Pracetās met Lord Mahadev by providential arrangement. Lord Mahadev instructed them to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he personally offered a prayer. As stated in the previous verse, Rudra-gīta, simply by chanting the prayers offered by Lord Shiva to Viṣṇu, the Pracetās were transferred to the spiritual world. Sometimes devotees desire to enjoy material happiness also. Therefore, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee is given a chance to enjoy the material world before his final entrance into the spiritual world. Sometimes a devotee is transferred to a heavenly planet, to Janaloka, Maharloka, Tapaloka, Siddhaloka, and so on. However, a pure devotee never aspires for any kind of material happiness. The pure devotee is consequently transferred directly to Vaikuntha Loka, which is described here as Param. In this verse, Vidura asks Maitreya, the disciple of Brihaspati, about the different achievements of the Pracetās. Maitreya uvacha Pracetās-santarudadho Vidura deshakarina japa yagena tapasa puranjanam atoshayam. The great sage Maitreya said, the sons of King Prachina-Barhi, known as the Pracetās, underwent severe austerities within the seawater to carry out the order of their father. By chanting and repeating the mantras given by Lord Shiva, they were able to satisfy Lord Viṣṇu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. One can offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly, but if one repeats the prayers offered by great devotees like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, or if one follows in the footsteps of great personalities, one can please the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. Oh God, I need to save this. Because this, I can use this for one of my Gaudiya Kirtan posts. I'm just gonna, one second. Where should I put this? I'm just gonna put this here for now. There. Okay. So, for instance, we sometimes chant this mantra of Brahma Samhita, 529. Chintamani prakarasarma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhirapi palayantam Lakshmi sahasra shatasam brahma sevamanam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, and abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis, or gopis. Because this prayer was offered by Lord Brahma, we follow him by reciting this prayer. That is the easiest way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pure devotee never attempts to reach the Supreme Lord directly. The most important way to worship the Lord is to go through the disciplic succession of devotees. The prayers offered by Lord Shiva to the Supreme Personality of Godhead were thus repeated by the Pracetās, who were thus very successful in pleasing the Supreme Lord. Here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is described as Puranjan. According to Madhvacharya, the living entity is called Puranjan because he has become an inhabitant of this material world, and under the influence of the modes of material nature, he is forced to live within it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates this material world, Pura, and he also enters within it. Unadulterated paramanu chantarastam. The Lord enters within the heart of the living entity and within the atom. Therefore, both the living entity and the Lord are called Puranjan. One Puranjan, the living entity, is subordinate to the Supreme Puranjan. Therefore, the duty of the subordinate Puranjan is to satisfy the Supreme Puranjan. That is devotional service. Lord Rudra, or Lord Shiva, is the original acharya of the Vaishnava Sampradaya called the Rudra Sampradaya. Rudra-gīta indicates that under the disciplic succession of Lord Rudra, the Pracetās achieved spiritual success. Dashavarsha sahasrante purushastu sanatana tesham avirabhut kritram shantena shamayan rucha. At the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Pracetās, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before him in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Pracetās and satisfied the labor of their austerities. Purport. Performing 10,000 years of severe austerities does not seem a happy endeavor. Yet the devotees, the serious students of spiritual life, undergo such austerities to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that time, when the duration of life was very long, people could undergo severe austerities for thousands of years. It is said that Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, underwent meditational austerities for 60,000 years. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appreciated the austerities undergone by the Pracetās, and he finally appeared before them in a pleasing form. Thus they all became satisfied and forgot the austerities they underwent. In the material world, if one is successful after hard labor, he is very pleased. Similarly, the devotee forgets all his labors and austerities as soon as he contacts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Dhruva Maharaj was only a 5-year-old boy, he underwent severe austerities by eating simply dry foliage, drinking only water, and taking no food. In this way, after 6 months, he was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. When he saw the Lord, he forgot all his austerities and said, Swamin kritartosmi. My dear Lord, I am very pleased. Of course, these austerities were performed in the Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Treta Yuga, but not in this age of Kali. In this Kali Yuga, one can attain the same results simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Because the people of this age are fallen, the Lord is kind enough to give them the easiest method. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can attain results. However, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out, we are so unfortunate that we are not even attracted to chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Suparna skandamarudho meru shringam buddha pitavasa mani griva kurvam vitti miradisha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing on the shoulder of Garuda, seems like a cloud resting on the summit of the mountain known as Meru. The transcendental body of the personality of Godhead was covered by attractive yellow garments, and his neck was decorated with the jewel known as the Kaustubha Mani. The bodily effulgence of the Lord dissipated all the darkness of the universe. Purport. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22:31, Krishna Surya Sama, Mai Hoy Andakar, Jaha Krishna Taha Nahi, Mayar Adhikar. The Supreme Lord is just like the effulgent sun. Consequently, whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present, there cannot be darkness or ignorance. Actually, this dark universe is illuminated by the sun, but the sun and moon simply reflects the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7:8, the Lord says, Prabhasmi Shash Suryayo. I am the illuminating energy of both the sun and the moon. The conclusion is that the origin of all life is the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti. Being illuminated by the bodily effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything is freed from all darkness. Whoops, did I just get a message? No. Okay. Kashishnuna Kanakavarna Vibhushanena Prajat Kapola Vadano Vilasat Kirita Ashtayudar Anucharar Munibhi Surendrar Asevito Garudakin Naragita Kirti. The Lord's face was very beautiful, and his head was decorated with a shining helmet and golden ornaments. The helmet was dazzling and very beautifully situated on his head. The Lord had 8 arms, which each held a particular weapon. The Lord was surrounded by demigods, great sages, and other associates. These were all engaged in his service. These are they. They. They're not things, right? Anyhow, Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, glorified the Lord with Vedic hymns by flapping his wings. Garuda appeared to be an inhabitant of the planet known as Kinara Loka. I have a hard time saying an inhabitant. An inhabitant. Purport. Generally, the Viṣṇu form is manifested with 4 hands holding 4 objects, a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. However, here, Lord Viṣṇu is described as possessing 8 arms with 8 kinds of weapons. According to Vidura, the conch shell and lotus flower are also accepted as weapons. Since the Lord is a supreme controller, whatever is in his hands can be considered a weapon. 4 hands hold 4 kinds of weapons, and the extra 4 hands hold an arrow, a bow, a trident, and a snake. Interesting. Sri Viraragavacharya describes the 8 weapons as Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, Shanga, Shada, etc. A king is always accompanied by his ministers, secretaries, and commanders, and Lord Viṣṇu is also accompanied by his followers, the demigods, the great sages, saintly persons, and so on. He is never alone. Consequently, there is no question of the Lord's being impersonal. My Gurudev instructed that when Krishna is illustrated, he always has to be with one of his devotees. Never paint Krishna completely alone, otherwise that makes Krishna impersonal. He is always himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associates are also persons. From the description given in this verse, Garuda appears to belong to the Kinara planet. The inhabitants of the Kinara planet have the same features as Garuda. Their bodily features are like those of a human being, but they have wings. The word Gita Kirti indicates that the inhabitants of Kinara Loka are very expert in singing the glories of the Lord. In Brahma Samhita it is said, Jagaranda Koti Kotishvashesha Vasudadi Vibhuti Bina. In each and every universe, there are different types of planets, and each planet has distinctive features. On the strength of this verse, we can understand that in Kinnaralok, the inhabitants can fly with their wings. There is also a planet known as Siddhalok, where the inhabitants can fly even without wings. Thus, each and every planet has some distinctive facility. That is the beauty of the varied creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vinayatashtabhujamandalamadaklakshmya Spardhatriya parivrito vanamalayadya Parhishmata purusha aha sutan prapannan Parjanyanada sagrina valoka. Around the neck of the personality of Godhead hung a flower garland that reached to his knees. His 8 stout and elongated arms were decorated with that garland, which challenged the beauty of the goddess of fortune. With a merciful glance and a voice like thunder, the Lord addressed the sons of King Pracetās, who were very much surrendered unto him. Purport. The word Adya in this verse is very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin even of Paramatma and Brahman. As confirmed in Bhagavad-Gīta 14.27, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The Absolute Truth begins not with the impersonal Brahman, but with the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. When Arjuna realized Krishna's greatness, he addressed him in this way: Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavam Purusham Shashvatam Devyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. You are the Supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:12. The Brahma Samhita also says, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. The Supreme Lord is not caused by anything, Anadi, but he is the cause of all causes. The Vedanta Sutra says, Janma Dasya Yataha. The Absolute Truth is that form from which everything emanates. The Absolute Truth is described as Adi Purush. The Absolute Truth is therefore a person and not impersonal. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Varam Vrinidvam Bhadramvo Yuyame Nripanandana Sohardena Pritag Dharmas Tushtoham Sohridenava. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction from me. Krishna likes when his devotees are getting along. Purport. Since the sons of King Pracetās were all united in Krishna consciousness, the Lord was very pleased with them. Each and every one of the sons of King Pracetās was an individual soul, but they were united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. The unity of the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is real unity. In the material world, such unity is not possible. Even though people may officially unite, they all have different interests. The United Nations, for instance, in the United Nations, for instance, all the nations have their particular national ambitions, and consequently, they cannot be united. Disunity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. there is only one goal: to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. This makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotees, as indicated in this verse. We can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Pracetas. Yo smarati sandhyayam yushman anudinam nara tasya bhratrishvatmasamyam tata bhuteshu sohridam. The Lord continued, those who remember you every evening of every day will become friendly with their brothers and with all other living entities. That's neat, huh? Those who remember the Pracetās every evening of every day will become friendly with all their brothers and living entities. Ye tumam Rudra-gītena sayam prata samahita stuvantaham kamavaran dasya pragyam chashobhanam. Those who will offer me the prayers composed by Lord Shiva, both in the morning and in the evening, will be given benedictions by me. And this way they can both fulfill their desires and attain good intelligence. Wow, more benedictions for the Rudra-gīta, because we already heard some before. Here's some more. Purport. Good intelligence means going back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad-gīta 10.10. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. One who offers prayers to the Lord to fulfill his different desires must know that the highest perfectional fulfillment of desire is to go back home, back to Godhead. In this verse, it is indicated that those who remember the activities of the Pracetās, the sons of King Pracetas, will be delivered and blessed. So what to speak of the sons of King Pracetas, who are directly connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Parampara system. If we follow the acharyas, we attain the same benefit as predecessors. If one follows the decisions of Arjuna, he should be considered to be directly hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between hearing Bhagavad Gita directly from the Supreme Lord and following a personality like Arjuna, who formerly heard Bhagavad Gita directly from the Lord. Sometimes foolish people argue that since Krishna is not present at the moment, one cannot take direct instructions from him. Such foolish people do not know that there is no difference between directly hearing Bhagavad Gita and reading it, as long as one accepts Bhagavad Gita as it is, spoken by the Lord. Should there? I don't think there should be a comma there. Oh no, I guess it can be comma. Whatever. However, if one wants to understand Bhagavad Gita by his imperfect interpretations, one cannot possibly understand the mysteries of Bhagavad Gita, even though one may be a great scholar according to mundane estimation. Yadyuyam pituradesham agrahishta mudanvita atova ushati kirtir lokananu bhavishyati. Because you have with pleasure accepted within your hearts the orders of your Father and have executed those orders very faithfully, your attractive qualities will be celebrated all over the world. The Lord is really glorifying his devotees. Purport. Since every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has small independence. Sometimes unintelligent men ask why one is put into a miserable condition, even though everyone is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of his minute independence, the living entity can obey or disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord. If he obeys the Supreme Lord's orders, he becomes happy. If he does not, he becomes unhappy. Therefore, the living entity creates his own happiness or unhappiness. The Supreme Lord does not enforce these on anyone. The Supreme Lord praised the Pracetās because they all faithfully obeyed the orders of their father. The Lord therefore blessed the sons of King Pracinna because they obeyed their father's orders. Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Ya Itam Atmaviryena Trilokam Purayishyati. You will have a nice son who will be in no way inferior to Lord Brahma. Consequently, he will be very famous all over the universe, and the sons and grandsons generated by him will fill the 3 worlds. Purport. As explained in the next verse, the Pracetās will marry the daughter of the great sage Kandu. It is suggested that the son's name will be Viṣṇuta, and that he will glorify both his father and mother because of his good character. In fact, he'd be greater than Lord Brahma. The great politician Chanakya said that if there is a good tree within a forest, or within a garden or forest, its flowers will fill the forest with their fragrance. Similarly, a good son within a family makes the whole family famous all over the world. Krishna took birth in the family of the Yadus, and consequently, the Yadu dynasty is famous all over the world. Let me just check to make sure the internet's still going, because yesterday I read for a long time without. Okay, it's still there. Good. Kando pramlochaya labdha kanya kamalalochana tam chapa vidam jagrihur bhuruha nripanandana. O sons of King Pracinna, the heavenly society girl named Pramlocha kept the lotus-eyed daughter of Kandu in the care of the forest trees. The heavenly society girl named Pramlocha kept the lotus-eyed daughter of Kandu in the care of the forest trees. Then she went back to the heavenly planet. That seems kind of not so nice. This daughter was born by the coupling of the Apsara named Pramlocha with the sage Kandu. So she just abandoned her in the forest? Thanks. Purport. Whenever a great sage undergoes severe austerities for material power, the king of heaven, Indra, becomes very envious. All the demigods have responsible posts for the management of the universal affairs and are very highly qualified with pious activities. Although they are ordinary living entities, they are able to attain responsible posts, like Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and Varuna. As is the nature of this material world, the king of heaven, Indra, is very anxious if a great sage undergoes severe austerities. The whole material world is filled with such envy that everyone becomes afraid of his neighbors. Every businessman is afraid of his associates, because this material world is the field of activities for all kinds of envious people who have come here to compete with the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus Indra was very much afraid of the severe austerities performed by the great sage Kandu, and he sent Pramlocha to break his vows and austerities. A similar incident took place in the case of Vishwamitra. From other incidents in the Shastras, it appears that Indra has always been envious. When King Prithu was celebrating various sacrifices, outdoing Indra, Indra became very envious and he disturbed King Prithu's sacrifice. This has already been discussed in the previous chapters. King Indra became successful in breaking the vow of the great sage Kandu, who became attracted by the beauty of the heavenly society girl Pramlocha and begot a female child. This child is described herein as lotus-eyed and very beautiful. Being thus successful in her mission, Pramlocha returned to the heavenly planets, leaving the newborn child to the care of the trees. Fortunately, the trees accepted the child and agreed to raise her. That was nice of the trees. Kshukshamaya mukhe raja soma piyusha varshinim teshinim rodamanaya nidadhe sadayanvitaha. Thereafter the child, who was left to the care of the trees, began to cry in hunger. At that time the king of the forest, namely the king of the moon planet, out of compassion placed his finger, which poured forth nectar, within the child's mouth. Thus the child was raised by the mercy of the king of the moon. And name of the moon is Sudakar. What do they call the moon here? Oh, Soma. Soma. Soma Piyusha. Drinking the Soma. Purport. And Sudakar means who distributes nectar. Purport. Although the Apsara left her child to the care of the trees could not take care of the child properly. Therefore the trees handed the child over to the king of the moon. Thus Chandra, king of the moon, put his finger within the mouth of the child to satisfy her hunger. Praja visarga adishta pitramam anuvartata tatra kanyam vararoham tam udvahatamachiram. Since all of you are very much obedient to my orders. Okay, sorry, I was just reading the message. Since all of you are very much obedient to my orders, I ask you to immediately marry that girl, who is so well qualified with beauty and good qualities. According to the order of your father, create progeny through her. Purport. The Pracetās not only were great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but were very obedient to the orders of their father. Therefore, the Lord asked them to marry the daughter of Pramlocha. Apratag dharmashilanam sarvesham vasam sumadhyama apratag dharmashileyam bhuyat patnyar pitashaya. You brothers are all of the same nature, being devotees and obedient sons of your father. Similarly, that girl is also of the same type, and is dedicated to all of you. Thus, both the girl and you, the sons of Pracina-Barhishat, are on the same platform, being united on a common principle. Purport. According to Vedic principles, a woman cannot have many husbands, although a husband can have many wives. In a special instance, however, it is found that a woman has more than one husband. Draupadi, for instance, was married to all of the 5 Pandava brothers. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ordered all of the sons of Pracina-Barhishat to marry one girl born of the great sage Kandu and Pramlocha. In special cases, a girl is allowed to marry more than one man, provided she is able to treat her husbands equally. This is not possible for an ordinary woman. Only one who is specially qualified can be allowed to marry more than one husband. In this age of Kali, to find such an equipoised woman is very difficult. Thus, according to scripture, Kalau Pancha Vivar Jayat. In this age, a woman is forbidden to marry her husband's brother. This system is still practiced in some of the hilly tracts of India. The Lord says, Apratag dharmashileyam bhuyat patnyar pitashaya. With the blessings of the Lord, all things are possible. The Lord especially blessed the girl to surrender equally to all brothers. Apratag dharma, meaning occupational duty without difference of purpose, is taught in Bhagavad-gīta. Occupational duty without difference of purpose. Okay. Bhagavad-gīta is divided into 3 primary divisions: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The word yoga means acting on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by Bhagavad-gīta 3.9. Yagyartat kamanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tarartam karma konteya mukta sangha samacharan. Work done as a sacrifice for Viṣṇu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. One may act according to his own occupational duty, just to satisfy the Yajna Purush, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is called apratag dharma. Different limbs of the body may act in different ways, but the ultimate objective is to maintain the entire body. Similarly, if we work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will find that we satisfy everything. We should follow in the footsteps of the Pracetās, whose only aim was to satisfy the Supreme Lord. This is called apratag dharma. According to Bhagavad-gīta 18.66, Sarva dharmam prityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. This is the advice of Lord Krishna. Our only aim should be to act in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the Lord. This is oneness, our apratag dharma. Internet's still going? Yes, it is. Devya varsha sahasranam sahasram ahato jasa bhoman bhokshata bhoganvai devyangs chanu grahan mama. The Lord then blessed all the Pracetās, saying, My dear princes, by my mercy you can enjoy all the facilities of this world as well as in the heavenly world. Indeed, you can enjoy all of them without hindrance and with full strength for 1,000,000 celestial years. Purport. The duration of life prescribed for the Pracetās by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is calculated by the time measurements of higher planetary systems. Our 6 Earth months are said to be equal to 12 hours in the higher planetary systems. 30 days equal 1 month, and 12 months equal 1 year. In this way, for 1,000,000 years, according to the calculations of the higher planetary system, the Pracetās were allowed to enjoy all kinds of material facilities. Although this lifespan was so long, the Pracetās were given full bodily strength by the grace of the Lord. In the material world, if one wants to live for many years, he must endure the difficulties of old age, invalidity, and many other miserable conditions. The Pracetās, however, were given full bodily strength to enjoy material facilities. This special facility was given to the Pracetās so that they could continue rendering full devotional service. This will be explained in the following verse. What verse are we reading up to today? It's already almost 8, I think. "18. Okay, we're ending with this verse. Oh my god, it's already 8 o'clock. Do you mind if I just finish this last verse? I'm just going to read this last verse really quick. Atamaya anapayinya bhaktya pakva gunashaya upayasyatamadhama nirvidya nirayadanta. Thereafter, you will develop unadulterated devotional service unto me and be freed from all material contamination. At that time, being completely unattached to material enjoyment in the so-called heavenly planets, as well as in hellish planets, you will return home back to Godhead." Wait, unattached to material enjoyment? Material enjoyment in the hellish planets? What? Okay, I'm curious. Purport. By the grace of the Lord, the Pracetās were given special facilities. Although they could live millions of years to enjoy material facilities, they still would not be deviated from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Being thus fully engaged, the Pracetās would be completely freed from all material attachment. Material attachment is very strong. During one lifetime, a materialist engages in acquiring land, money, friends, society, friendship, love, and so on. He also wants to enjoy the heavenly planets after the annihilation of the body. If one is engaged in devotional service, however, he becomes unattached to all kinds of material enjoyment and suffering. In the material world, those who are elevated to the higher planetary systems are supposed to enjoy all material facilities, whereas those degraded to lower planetary systems are supposed to live in a hellish condition. A devotee, however, is transcendental to both heavenly and hellish conditions. According to Bhagavad-gīta 14.26, a devotee's position is described in this way. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samititaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. A devotee is always situated on the Brahman platform. He has nothing to do with material happiness or distress. When one is strongly fixed in devotional service and free from all material attachment, uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, he becomes fit to return home back to Godhead. Although by special blessing the Pracetās would enjoy material facilities for millions of years, they would not be attached to them. Thus, at the end of their material enjoyment, they would be promoted to the spiritual world and return to Godhead. The word pakva gunashaya has special significance, for it means that by devotional service, one is able to give up the influence of the three modes of material nature. As long as one is influenced by the modes of material nature, he cannot return to Godhead. It is clearly explained that in all planets in the material world, beginning from Brahmaloka down to the hellish planets, are unfit places for a devotee. Padam padam ya vipadam natesham. A place where there is danger at every step is certainly not a comfortable place. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad-gīta 8.16, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avatirnarjuna mamupetatu konteya punar janmanavetate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. Thus, there is no profit, even if one is promoted to the highest planet in the material universe, Brahmaloka. However, if one is somehow or other promoted to the abode of the Lord, he never returns to the material world. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hare Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Chila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shila Gurudev ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Chila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Chila Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashma Chila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Maha-Bhagavat Shila Gorkishwaras Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Shila Satchitaranda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vaishnav Sarvabhaumashta Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Shada Vrinda ki Jai, Nama Chay Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kuni Munaganga Thosi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Pandavan Nirjala Akadashi Titi ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat Pranams Rup Manjari Didi and Rukmini Didi and Prajumna Prabhu and Mantra Murti Mataji. Yes, I'm also excited for the 5th canto. We'll be starting it in 5 days from now or 6 days from now? 6 days from now. It's Haribo. Dandavat Pranams, Pavatarani Mataji, Nri Hari Prabhu, Madhavi Didi, everybody who's there. Dandavat Pranams, Karkaraj Ji, Haribo. Jai Jai, Haribo.